With over 70% of viewers unsubscribed, do be sure to hit that button, it would certainly support the channel. In 2024, Qantas, which is Australia's flag carrier, is certainly navigating many ongoing challenges, and its situation is very fascinating. There is a lot that has to be considered, not just in the short term, but also looking ahead into the long term. The airline faces network expansion complexities, a major fleet renewal, the need to meet sustainability targets, competition, we're seeing new business endeavors, and it's also facing a rebuild. But let's begin with that important fleet renewal. This is a pivotal element of its current operations in 2024. It will take a step this year in the right direction to achieve this for the long term. And while this video is covering the situation at the company, the fleet renewal taking place is really the building blocks to prepare for growth in the coming years. The comprehensive overhaul is looking to not just replace older aircraft with more fuel-efficient alternatives, but also the purchase of planes that will aid the airline's growth plans. It does not want to be stagnant. It wants to be ever-evolving and moving forward to meet growth in new, but also existing markets. The most notable short-term additions to the Qantas fleet that are yet to be delivered include the A321XLR and the A350-1000. These aircraft are expected to play crucial roles in expanding the airline's network, but in very different ways. One, with Project Sunrise. Ambitions include flights over 20 hours, and utilizing the enhanced range to make new routes possible without a stopover, easing pressure on existing wide-body types. But then you have, on the other side, a narrow-body with extended range capabilities as well, which means there are new routes possible into, say, Asia, and also the easing of pressure on other aircraft. These new planes, though, have faced delays, disrupting Qantas's plans when they'd like to achieve them. These delays were announced in the last 6 months or so. While the purpose of both aircraft will differ, ultimately within the group, their objective will remain the same: to boost capacity available and obviously impact the business in a positive manner. These are just some of the more critical short-term focuses, but there's more worth considering on the horizon, such as the use of the 787 Dreamliner, as they will be expecting more of these later down the line. But the lack of 787s, if you will, has presented concern about their ability to extend services and meet capacity requirements, and that's where I want to shift to. When discussing fleet renewal, that directly ties into the network. Obviously, planes get deployed on routes, and their capacity and frequencies affect a lot. Qantas has faced challenges in expanding its route network to many markets through the years, and this is something that's been highlighted by avid travelers that utilize the Flying Kangaroo. There are obviously positives though. The airline has seen growth with a focus on Europe. Take a look at the deployment of flights once more to Rome on a seasonal basis, new services to Paris, among the strengthening of its London operations. But when you consider the recent difficulties that have now been resolved with Perth Airport and restrictions around the availability of 787 Dreamliners and the delays associated with them, well, Qantas couldn't get planes away when they necessarily needed them to. While Qantas has made some definite strides in Europe and would look to probably strengthen this in the future even more, it actually faces a lot of competition from this region, and that extends to the North American market. Particularly, I like to look at United Airlines as the perfect example. It's not been a lie. Over the past 18 months, United has aggressively expanded its presence between the Australian and North American sectors. Look no further than their press releases. When they announce new routes, they're very, very keen on stating that they're one of the biggest and have put a major focus on rapidly extending services to the Oceania region. United last summer offered more flights during peak periods than the flag carrier of Australia, which challenged their market share. Given the US airline's fantastic network and also access to Star Alliance partners, onward travel paired with attractive pricing and a typically reliable service made it a favourable choice. Another very interesting thing to consider, while obviously hasn't completely run Qantas into the ground, the state of the image of this brand in Australia has certainly affected consumers' choice when booking travel. Beyond operational and even competitive challenges that I have been touching on, the reputation of this company has really gone downhill in the past 5 years. Some would argue that it started way before then, but if you really analyze analyze when it's been getting to its worst it's been in the last 5 years. We've seen controversies including customer service issues, labor disputes, and also operational disruptions, and it's hurt the image of them. Trust is something that's not been there. In response, we've seen Qantas initiate a major shakeup to its executive team, really aiming to rebuild that reputation and hopefully restore trust. Analysts and those who previously worked within the company don't believe this is necessarily enough, but obviously you have to look at it from a standpoint of that with time, and if no further controversies come out, things will eventually heal. And that's what Qantas will be betting on, with continued improvements across their operation and of course the restoration of that trust. Really, for the company, the brand repairment is something that can't be ignored. It's important for the long-term image, it's important for their long-term relationship with customers, and again, you need to have that trust there, especially if you want to focus on things such as brand loyalty. Sustainability is going to be another very important focus of Qantas this year and moving into next. The airline has obviously ambitious targets where it wants to reduce emissions, achieving net zero. They also want to see the adoption of sustainable aviation fuels, just like most people, and the modernization of their fleet with more fuel-efficient aircraft, especially to be felt by the 2030s, will reduce carbon footprints. And on top of that, there's the hope that they would look to be more environmentally friendly, reducing single-use practices, promoting reuse, and so much more. All this shouldn't come as a shock. It is one of the focal points that is present with all airlines across the industry, and we're actually seeing airlines go as far as looking to collaborate, speak with their local governments, and so much more to ensure that their futures can be as sustainable as possible. More immediate concerns are the operating environment. This is a term that is thrown around a lot, and the challenges surrounding it. Honestly, the operating environment can be challenging for many reasons, not just one, and the thing is, each reason will differ for each airline, which makes it sometimes hard to follow, but there may be some general overlapping, always to be subject to change. One issue, though, for Qantas that has certainly been brought up has been the shortage of skilled employees. You may recall during the pandemic, Qantas decided to offload many experienced staff members. In fact, I would probably make a good bet that some of you watching were in that position, as you've reached out to me on several occasions and cited your experience. This didn't go down well, not just from those that were offloaded and the handling of these people during tough times. That, of course, directly attributed to the reputational damages. But as Qantas recovered from a demand perspective, all of a sudden its workforce had really shifted. Not only did they outsource to try and lower costs, but the group lacked experience and the mentorship necessary to bring in the new generation. Therefore, mistakes can very easily slip through in an industry where mistakes are not to be afforded. Look no further than their customer service. Once focusing strictly on offices in Melbourne, Sydney, and so forth, the outsourcing of that, paired with those taking a role in these call centers, having not enough training and being rushed into the job, meant that customers were not helped in the slightest. So in summary, 2024-2025 is going to be very interesting for Qantas, to say the least. There is so much to take a look at, whether it is their fleet renewal efforts that are going to gear up massively in the next 12 months, whether it is that increasing competition from other airlines that are threatening to take market share away from them, or maybe it's something else. I'd love to hear your take though. What is something you believe is important for Qantas to be considering in the short term? Let me know down below in the comments. Thank you very much for your support here on GlobeTrotting. Subscribe if you are new, and I'll see you in a couple of days for more aviation analysis. And we'll fly.